Okay, so welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm really excited to be joined, genuinely excited to be joined by one of my favourite people on the internet, Denise Duffield-Thomas. Welcome.
Oh, well, that's a nice introduction. Thanks, Jessica.
I actually came, so funny story, I came to your event in London last year.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I came and I was like, oh my God, there she is in real life and stuff. And people were queuing up to hug you afterwards. And I was like, I really wanted to do that. But also I had to get on one of those annoying trains from Waterloo. So I was torn between, do I miss my last train and do I hug you? And unfortunately, I did have to get home for the dog. So I'm sorry I didn't get to hug you in person, but I was there in the audience.
That's totally fine. I'll be back.
I'm sending a virtual one. So I've obviously followed you for quite a while. You know, I've been following your blogs probably since I started out 4 years ago. So about a year in. So it's like 3.5 years. I've been following you. I think your blogs are amazing. I read your first book as I was coming out of the corporate world because I was like, I think it's amazing. Also, there weren't that many books out there called Lucky Bitch, which I thought was fabulous. And I remember actually looking, because for me, this idea of manifestation was a whole new ballgame. You know, as a stiff, repressed Brit, manifestation and that whole idea was really, really new. And so for me, you were one of the few people that actually did break it down into practical terms. And for a long time, I did actually have my password on my computer as the thing that I wanted to manifest. So there we go.
It works, doesn't it?
I know, I did. I had it there for a whole year.
Quickly. No, it's really, yeah. I'm a big fan of manifesting stuff too, but it's just like when I started looking into the law of attraction, I was like, but what do you do? I don't get it. So I do like to make it very practical and very easy because I do believe in it. It's definitely something to be said for when you put your intention into a goal that it does come true, but not just by sitting and waiting for it.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot that goes into it.
And I think, you know, one of the biggest things you introduced me to was this idea of inspired action. I thought that was huge and genuinely really revolutionary.
Yeah, well, you have to take lots of action. And, that's what we're talking about today is you don't get to six figures by doing nothing. But there's a lot of mental stuff that happens for you to be able to get to six figures and beyond. So, I'm so keen to talk about that because, straight off the bat, I want to say one of the reasons why I do this work is because I'm so passionate about independence, financial independence for women, because you see what's happening in the world at the moment. And so much of the crap that goes on for women is that we often don't have any choices if we don't have the finances to help us. So that's my driver. It's not just money for money's sake. In the corporate world, six figures might be seen as a certain milestone, but I really see it in the entrepreneurial world. It is a freedom kind of milestone. It's a symbolic milestone. And, so you can have the choices to do what you want to do.
I love that. And I mean, let's talk a little bit about what you do. I mean, I polled my audience, I'm going to be honest, before I did this series. And you were one of the top people that they were like, we'd really love to hear what Denise thinks about the six figures and what it really takes to get there and that kind of mental game. But for those who haven't met you yet, what is it that you really spend your day-to-day doing?
Well, I started out as a life coach and then I transitioned to being a business coach. And the reason why I work in money is because all of my clients, it was really weird, right? Because being a Virgo and being very practical, be like, go and do your blog post for the week. And they would come back and go, I didn't do it. And I'd be like, what the, like, why? And I realized that it wasn't ability, it wasn't ambition, it wasn't, confidence was a little bit there as well. But so many women that I was working with were really afraid of money. And so that's where I decided to talk mostly about money in my business. And that's just where I wanted to help women, because it really isn't that complicated. Like, business is not that complicated. Like, you think of anything that your clients or listeners want to do, you can Google it for free, most of it, right? You can listen to a podcast, you can do it. But there's just something there that's holding us back, and it's a big feeling, fear, worry, anxiety, and a lot of it comes down to this thing called money blocks. And so that's what I do, is just help people with that money block side of it, so you can get out of your own way and do the things that you kind of already know how to do, or you can figure it out.
And I love that, because one of the things that you said on stage in London last year that made the biggest impact on me, and I tell everyone about this, was you said wealthy women will change the world. And when you first said it, I went, yeah, okay. And I didn't really hear it. And you said it about 3 times, and there was a big slide behind you that said wealthy women will change the world. And you started talking about how wealthy women, you know, in politics and in who are able to make big financial decisions do actually shape the future that we have. And for me, that cemented a lot of the kind of things that I'd been thinking about business and about my audience, because women, like you say, they don't always feel like they have that choice or that power, especially in the times that we're in now. And I think it's a huge concept that women can change the world if they are ready to break through those kind of mind gremlins, if you like, and actually start becoming financially free.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and let me tell you a story about my mum. My mum has lived with us on and off for the last couple of years. And I notice how much energy it takes for her to be broke, because she's been a broke single mum her whole life. And it will be things like, we'll go somewhere and she'll go, well, let's park way over here so we don't have to pay for parking. There's so much energy that's involved with her day to day on having to survive and being frugal. And it's ingrained in her, you know, it's ingrained. Whereas, you know, when you know that you're taken care of, and this isn't necessarily about having to make 6 figures to achieve that, but it's like you have so much more energy to do things in the world that are important to you, whether it's, you know, politics or working in your community or giving back or being a philanthropist. Having that taken care of, it's that oxygen thing, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first, and then you have the energy to help other people. And that's what I see that money does. You have the energy and space to do something different, and then you've got freedom then to go, how do I want to show up in the world? Because I don't have to worry about paying for this parking today. I have the extra energy to use it in a different way.
When you start talking about things like that, all of those little bits of time and energy add up. And I think that's what people don't realize. That's one of the biggest things for me that you kind of opened my eyes to, was this idea that actually there are a collective amount of actions that you take every day. And if you're not open to the fact that some of them may need to change, or that you may need to reset the way you think about some of them, that actually you're just going to spend a ton of time and energy on things that you don't need to worry about at all, or that you don't have to focus on really.
Yeah, what I see it is that all of those thoughts, as you said, add up, and those thoughts impact how we believe we can be in the world, and those things impact our actions. So it's either a spiral upwards or a spiral downwards. You know, all of that stuff comes into play. And people who are skeptical about the law of attraction, I think, well, even if it's just training your brain to believe in a certain thing, to give you the courage to take the action, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then it's kind of not an accident. You know, people go, well, you know, well, that's a coincidence. It's like, well, it's not, because you believed it was possible because you typed it into your password. Those of you who don't know what we're talking about, you know,
Read the
have
book.
your goal is, yeah, exactly, read my book. But have your password, which you type in multiple times a day, have that be one of your goals. Because the more you see it, the more you'll believe it. And the more you believe it with those little micro actions, when the opportunities come, you're more likely to take action. From the outside, it looks like a coincidence. It looks like, you know, whatever, magic, but it's not. It's like you've just, with those little micro changes and shifts, you've kind of set yourself up to, from the outside, to look really lucky. And so what I like to do is, okay, let's look at all of those things and how can we reverse engineer them? And I was actually looking at this massive big list of cognitive biases. You know, things like the law of recency. It's like the most recent thing you saw, you're more likely to see it again. Or if, you know, you want to buy a particular card, then suddenly you see them everywhere. It's that confirmation bias effect, right? And so I was like, well, all of these things have been studied. So why can't we just reverse engineer them? And I'll give you another example of this. My screensaver on my mobile phone is a picture of a property that we wanted to buy. And I mean, imagine how many times I see that looking at my phone all day, and it just flashes up and I go, oh, and I've put, you know, ease and grace, I've written over the top of it, to buy this property. And it's given me the belief. Then when action comes in that I need to take, like, oh, am I going to send another email about my sale? Yes, I think I will, because I believe that it's possible. So it's really funny how you can just train your brain like that, but then it looks like kind of magic.
I think that's awesome though, because I've always been somebody, and I've always said publicly, I'm not woo. Like I'm just not it, because I, like you, I'm a Virgo, and I like things that I can do. I like things that can be
Yeah.
proven and that I can see working in the world. And that was the difference for me about your content, was that it was practical, and that you weren't asking me to, you know, go and dance under the moon at a specific time of the month and, you know, want to see unicorns and all this kind of thing. You were saying that these are the little habits that you can train your brain into. And that made it much easier for me to actually break it down and think, okay, what are the micro steps I'm doing each day? Because, you know, you'll know this, when you're trying to get to the 6-figure mark, it's not about doing the big things all the time. It's about being consistent about the smaller actions you take, because they build up to that bigger goal and actually achieving it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because if you were to look at any metric in my business, right, whether it's my income or even say my list size or my social media numbers, there's never been one event, like I've never gone viral, for example. You know, I've never had one event that suddenly catapulted me in the stratosphere. It's been 10 years of micro improvements. Micro improvements.
I'm really
Extra
glad
reader.
that you've said that and busted that myth, because I bet there are tons of people who are like, well, Denise is pretty and blonde and she, you know, she's really fun and really smart. And that's what it is. It must just be that some magic star fell on her one day and catapulted her into success.
No, it really hasn't. It's been daily, weekly, monthly micro actions that add up over time.
And I think that's important. I mean, if you were starting again and you had to do the same thing and you knew it was going to take you 10 years, but you would get to where you are today, would it still be the path you took? Or would you kind of, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs who get a little bit sidetracked because they're trying to do all the things, you know, they want all the shiny objects, they're doing all the courses, they're running all the webinars, they're vlogging, blogging, podcasting, everything, but they're not drilling down on the mini actions each day. They're actually going to make them the sales or keep them profitable, or, you know, work through any issues that they need to overcome to actually make themselves more successful.
Well, some of that is you don't know what you don't know at the start. That's for sure. So sometimes you do have to try a lot of things and see what sticks, and, you know, throw things at the wall, and some will pan out and some won't. That's just part of business for sure. But I do see people like shift and change before things work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, well, I'm going to blog every week. And then they do it twice and they go, well, that didn't work. And it's like, well, repeat that another 50 times and then come back to me. And it's really frustrating, because say you want to be a plumber, which is what my brother is, my little brother. He knows he has to do 4 years of his plumbing apprenticeship and then he's qualified.
Wow.
How long do you have to do? How many, you know, sales calls do you have to do with a client until you hit your apprenticeship? You have no idea. It could be 10, it could be 100. So it's frustrating because you don't know what it's going to take when you start out. I believe it takes less than you think, but it also requires more consistency than you think. You just have to keep on going. You know, I always say to people, just try, like, it's the 10,000 hour rule, right? Malcolm Gladwell talks about that. Do 10,000 hours of anything and you'll be an expert. And I'm like, just do like 10 hours, because most people will think, oh my God, I have to do 10,000. I'm not even going to do one. It's like, well, just do 10 and see what happens. And then do another 10 and then do another 10.
I love that. And I think it's really important, because a lot of people feel like they're failing. If they haven't hit their 6 figures in the first year, they're like, well, the business doesn't work, or there's something wrong with me. And that's what I see a lot of women in particular say, is there must be something wrong with me. I must be the wrong thing. And that really upsets me, because I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that actually 6 figures is a big goal. You know, hitting it takes work, and it's not about you being a failure if you didn't hit it within a really short time frame. It's about what you're going to do to shift and change that over time to make sure that you get there, if that's really the goal you want to hit.
Well, let's talk about failure, right? Because I think that's such a perfect example. A lot of people don't know the statistics of failure. And by that, I mean, it's so predictable how much you're going to fail in business. For example, we know that 98% of people probably won't buy if you're doing a sale or a launch. Like, you'll get 2% maybe of people who buy. So if you don't know that statistic, you are going to feel like a failure. I call it the 3% pain in the ass rule. 3% of your customers will be such pains in the butt. It's untrue. I know that when we do a launch, we'll get 5% of people ask for a refund, 5 to 10% of people ask for a refund. Without knowing that, the first time you get a refund request, you are going to feel like the biggest failure ever. And I've seen people completely quit their businesses forever based on that one unavoidable, inevitable event. So it doesn't make it any easier necessarily, but if you do know the statistics of failure, and you can know that by, you can ask other people in your industry, you can, I talk about it a lot in my new book that's coming out next year, and then you can just go, oh my God, I don't need to worry about that. If you know that 1% of people will unsubscribe every time you send a newsletter, then you can just take off the unsubscribe notifications, because who cares? If it goes to 3%, okay, maybe you look at it, but 1% is pretty normal. So you can't, it's like, send me a big business, but no unsubscribes. Send me Oprah level of fame, but no haters. Send me massive amounts of money, but no tax bill.
Yeah, if that ever happens, I want the recipe on how that's done, because that would be lovely.
It's impossible. So you have to get friendly with the fact that failure is just built into the system of being in business, and you can't let it derail you. You can't let it be the reason why you're not going to do your business anymore.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, there are lots of new entrepreneurs out there who are almost worried, about failing, but also about being successful. Because, and I've seen this in your work and the content that you've produced over the years, is that it seems to be equally difficult to show somebody that they can recover from what they perceive to be failure, as it is to show somebody that they deserve to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true. And it's very, very tricky because we're sensitive. A lot of people go into businesses because they love it, it's their passion, they feel like they've put blood, sweat, and tears in it. And so they do take rejection personally, even though sadly it's inevitable.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, forearmed is forewarned. It's much easier. I mean, that thing about refunds, the statistic there about refunds is huge, because a lot of people do get upset when they receive their first refund, or even, reviews. Amazon book reviews have been a big thing in the industry at the moment, where people have been getting, a 3-star or a 1-star or 2-star book review, and getting genuinely upset about it, and kind of like, oh God, should I rewrite the entire book? And I'm like, well, it's one person's opinion. And honestly, the more people who read it, or the more people who buy your content or consume your content, unfortunately, the more people you are going to get who are going to be vocal and say, it's not for me.
Exactly. And that's fine. You
Yeah.
can't be everything to everyone. And it's hard because I know there's been some times recently where I've set boundaries or I've done things in my business, and people have literally said, I'm really disappointed in you. And that doesn't feel good. I'm not celebrating that. But I know it's easier for me to be myself than try and please, 20 different personality types. It's impossible, and it's disheartening to try and do that because you're never going to please them all anyway. But yeah, of course it hurts to have someone say, I don't like this new direction, or I don't like what you've done, or I don't like this. When I changed my business from just my name to Lucky Bitch, I got a ton of people saying, nope, don't like it, never going to follow you again. Bye. And it was like, well, that's okay. I had to do what was in my heart, and the people who like it will like it, and the people who won't. And that's okay.
And that's the thing, sometimes I think, as a business owner, and certainly as someone who's a leader in the industry, you have to make bold decisions, and everyone else kind of follows along. And eventually they come around and they go, oh, wow, Denise did this thing that was like groundbreaking. I wish I was brave enough to do that. So in some ways, you've actually set the standard for, and give other people permission to do the things that they've always wanted to do.
Yes, but can I tell you a story about this, right?
Yeah.
This is the whole thing about following people. I love Marie Forleo. I love her work. And I remember a couple of years ago, her design aesthetic just was off the charts, like so beautiful. And so I started to think, oh my God, I really need to up the level of my branding, and I really need to make everything look so shiny and sexy and all this kind of stuff, right? And you saw a lot of people doing it at the same time because they're like, Marie Forleo's, oh my God, look at her photos and her design and blah, blah, blah. So everyone tries to copy her. And then I found out from my designer, then everyone's like, that she's working with, oh, I want a website like Denise's. And I can't remember which baby it was because I've got 3 now, the blur. But I took my eye off the ball of my statistics a little bit, and I wasn't tracking conversions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back from maternity leave and I was like, what happened? Our conversions on our opt-in pages went from like normal, say 2%
Mm-hmm.
to like 0.5%. And I
Wow.
was like, what is going on? And it was too pretty, too designy, too overcomplicated. And so it makes me think sometimes you might look at someone else and go, oh my God, they're doing this, so I have to do that too. And I feel really bad that, I might have accidentally encouraged other people to feel these beautiful, sexy sales pages and websites and all that kind of stuff, because it actually doesn't work. So that's another reason why you have to keep your eye on your own business, track what works for you, and make sure that you're doing things in alignment with you, not just blindly following someone else because you don't know what's behind that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree. I think it's interesting because I think I've watched the internet go through changes. And, when I first started out, everyone wanted to be Gina Devi and have photo shoots in Paris, and then Marie Forleo with her fantastic hair. Like, if Marie Forleo, if you ever listen to my podcast, you have the most glorious hair on the internet or just the world, and there was that kind of phase of things. And, I think now people are coming round to this idea that you can just be yourself, and it's been made okay to make money being you. And I think in some ways that's awesome, but in some ways it poses a massive problem, for people who their identity is tied to other things. I mean, you just mentioned there you're a mother of 3. You are a superhero. Like, I can barely keep myself and a dog alive, and there's you with bringing up 3 well-rounded humans and running a hugely successful business. And some people who have that label and they go, well, I'm just a mum, they don't feel like that success is attainable for them, or they don't feel like they're able to make money by being themselves because they feel like they have to be something else. And I think that that's a myth that should be completely busted across the internet. Like, everyone is worthy, everyone has a skill.
Yes. And this is what kind of my new book is about, which
Ooh.
actually, as we're talking, it might be on pre-order, so everyone can go look at Amazon or wherever. But so it's called Chillpreneur, is my 3rd book.
I love it.
And it's coming out in February 2019. And it's all about finding your path of least resistance, because everyone has one for them. And you can't necessarily follow someone else's business model because, one, they might have a completely different money personality to you. They might have completely different life situation. Even people with similar income, so 6 figures might be great in one city and might be nothing in another city. So why are we, setting ourselves up for goals that might be completely meaningless, to other people? And it's just finding what works for you, finding your chill in your business, finding the clients that you most like to work with, not the other way around, like who needs me the most, finding the business model that works for you, because then that's all you can offer. And if people sort of say to you, well, that's not enough, you should be doing X, Y, Z, it's like, this is literally what I can offer. Some people are going to love it, and I'm going to find those people who will love it. It's not like you can only market to people in your town anymore, and you have to bend and stretch yourself to fit what the market wants. Like, there's heaps of people who could be your clients all around the world. So why not just do what's easy for you and then find the market for that?
I love that. I love that. Honestly, this has been incredibly insightful, and I could talk to you all day, but I do also want everyone to get the opportunity to find you and what you're up to. So obviously you've got the book coming out that should be on pre-order when this episode goes live, but where else can people find you if they haven't already discovered the magic that is the land of DDT?
So my website's denisedt.com, and all of my social handles are the same too. So on Twitter, I'm Denise DT, Facebook, Denise DT, and Instagram, which is where I hang out the most at the moment. That's my path of least resistance. So take a screenshot of, the artwork for this podcast with me and Jessica, and tag me, tell me an aha that you've had from this. Because we could talk all day on this topic, but there's lots of juicy stuff that I put out over there all the time.
100%. And I would love to see the ahas on Instagram. I know, and spoiler alert for anyone that follows me on Instagram, I will be sharing a link to Denise's video from, I don't know how long ago, but it's my favorite one from you. and it's about how men sell versus how women sell. And it is literally my favorite thing on your website, and I still play it to this day.
Yeah, I did that in London. Oh my God, that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. And that was the only thing I've even had slightly go viral.
Oh, I love it.
Years of putting stuff out. But it is really true. There is, as women, we try and hide and we try and be apologetic. And, there's just been such a big shift in the last year or so where women are angry, they're angry at what's happening.
Yes.
And I think we can channel that energy into a fierce desire for financial independence for ourselves, our community, other women, and because our kids are watching. My kids are watching too.
100%. There is a whole new generation of entrepreneurs, male and female, that need to be incredibly successful and just enjoy life. And I love that you're bringing it to the table. And I, for one, will have Chillpreneur on pre-order. Be like, woo, kicking back at the beach, reading it.
Well, you're going to laugh when you see the cover because it is a lady. It's not me. It's a lady on a sun lounger with a laptop, which I think is hilarious. But
it's like every Facebook ad ever that everyone looks at and thinks, I wish that was me. And then you take your laptop to the beach and realize sand gets stuck in all sorts of god-awful places.
And you can't see your screen, and it's a big old mess. But yeah, when you go to Amazon, guys, you'll see a picture of a lady on a sun lounger, and yeah, it's all about finding your path of least resistance, not necessarily working in a hammock, which I've done once and I fell out of. It's really about finding your easy path. And the one thing I want to tell you is it's actually easier now. I have an easier life and business at $3 million than getting to six figures. Yeah. So once you get to six figures, you will have little blips along the way, but you'll realize that, it's a big mental kind of hurdle. And then it's not smooth sailing after that, but it is easier. It's easier to make more money than it is to make less money in so many ways.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, my final question to you would be, do you ever still get worried about making big decisions? Do you ever still get that adrenaline rush of fear and excitement in your tummy when you're making decisions that are about changes or pivots or more money or big risks? Because I think a lot of people seem to assume that once you get past six figures, that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I don't know. Do we have a couple of minutes?
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, so, I don't want to take up tons of your time because I know you're incredibly busy, but I was like, that's a juicy.
I'm not, but see, this is the thing I want you to hear, Jessica. I'm not busy. And that's the B word that is banned in our family. The busy word is banned in our family. I'm very intentional about the work that I do, and I'm not a busy person. I was busy in my first year where I was like, doing clients at 4:30 in the morning and doing clients at night, 10 o'clock at night. But now I really work on the things that bring me joy, and there are things that get the most amount of money for the least amount of effort. So I should have called my business Lazy Bitch because I feel like I'm very, very lazy at the moment. But yes, I absolutely do get fear. And the thing that's going on for us at the moment is, you're listening to this in November, but back in July, I saw this property and it's a rose farm out in the country. And I'd been writing in my journal, I love writing my goals that are close. These are things I want to do this year, and these are the things I want in the future. And I'd written down, I want a holiday house where my kids can get married at. It was just the most random goal. And I saw this rose farm that came up online. And I remember saying to Mark, I can't even go see it because I'm just going to buy it. And so I just forgot about it. And a couple months later, it was back on. And I just thought, I'm just going to go have a look at it. So we went and had a look, and I fell in love with it. And I said to Mark, all right, let's buy this rose farm, which is, to be honest, the worst timing ever because we just had a baby. We're actually building another house on the beach. It's our dream, like multi-million-dollar house. And there was a lot of stuff that came up for me. Am I allowed to also have a holiday house? Am I allowed to have a country house just for the fun and pleasure of it? And it sounds like, oh yeah, great, Denise, no big deal. You just got and bought a holiday house. But it's still, I still make decisions where I'm like, am I allowed to? It's not even about the money because, Mark was saying, oh, like, it's expensive when we're also doing this thing. And I said, Mark, money is the easiest thing in the world to make, but you can't find properties and you can't find dreams like this. Sometimes timing, you just have to jump on it if something comes up, especially if it's something you've written on your dream board or in your journal, right? If it comes up for a reason. So then you just have to overcome that fear. And the way that I overcame that, first of all, I put the picture of the rose farm on my phone so I could look at it every day. I wrote ease and grace to buy the rose farm. All of those things in themselves don't bring the money in. All of those things help me have a little bit of courage and bravery to go and do the things that I need to do to bring in the money. And every time I have a big goal like this, my financial advisors, first of all, they're like, you guys, like we come to them with like, we've got this big dream, and they go, ugh. And I say to them, tell me how much money I need. I'll go away, get the money, and come back. And I have to do those things, those little things like the password, the dream boards, the writing down the goals. So then I can go, okay, what do I need to do in my business? Because this rose farm is mine. All I have to do is now take the action to bring the money to achieve it. So yeah, I absolutely do get scared all the time, but I still do the exact same little things as I did back when I was making zero money and I wanted to, quit my job. It's the same stuff. It doesn't get bigger, doesn't get more advanced. It's the same stuff.
I really love that. And I think, the huge thing that stood out for me is it's about this consistent action. You're not saying to people, go and create a vision board and just spend 20 minutes looking at it every day. It's look at the vision board, but then take the other actions required. Get on active campaigns, send out your email, put out your sales post, go and plan out your launch, do the actual stuff required to make the money and to make that vision board a reality.
Absolutely. And in between sending that email, look at your vision board to give you that little, shot of bravery that you need, and then go take the action again.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I absolutely adore you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning to come and have a chat with us all. Everyone is going to be absolutely overwhelmed. No, it's
this is what I love doing. Thank you. And remember, there's no B word, there's no busy. Be really intentional about how you spend your time, and then you'll never feel busy.
I love that. I love that. So there you go. If you are someone out there who's been feeling incredibly busy, then you need to go and grab a copy of Denise's new book, Chillpreneur. It will be out on pre-order on Amazon. Make sure you also head over to her website. She's got a fabulous money quiz, which I've taken numerous times over the last few years just to see if my archetype ever changes. It doesn't.
Oh
so
my God.
Spoiler.
We have to have a whole conversation about money archetypes.
I just love it. That quiz is addictive.
Yes. Can you tell me what are yours?
So, I was saying to Liz, my COO, before this, I was like, I was going to take it before the interview. And she was like, don't take it before the interview, take it afterwards so that you can see if you've changed by talking to Denise. So I'm going to have to Instagram you and be like, this is what I am now.
Yes, please. Because what I'm going to do, it's probably finished by the time we've done this now, but you could probably go to my Instagram and have a look, is I'm going to ask people just like 1 or 2 questions and a link to get them to link to their website. And I'm going to try and guess what people's archetypes are.
Oh,
yeah, because for some people it's really obvious. Like for some people I can talk to them and just go, oh my God, one thing they say, I'm like, that's you. Other people, they're hiding. So for example, someone might be an alchemist, but they've had a business coach who's, a ruler. And so they've done their website to please their business coach, not to please who they really are inside. So for anyone who's listening to this, you can do the quiz. It's at denisedt.com/quiz. And then you'll know what we're talking about. And then you can tag us and let us know what you are.
You have to let us know. And now I'm really desperate to know, what am I? What do you think I am? What does your magical brain think that I am?
Oh, see, I don't know. I think you could have some alchemists in your top 3. Maybe connector, because I find that a lot of people who create podcasts to interview other people are connectors, because they love bringing people together and they love bringing people's wisdom to them as well. I don't know. I'd have to have a look at your website. I'll go and have a look at your website as well and see. Yeah.
I know. I will.
Yeah,
I will tell you. But yeah, no, I will. That's really interesting. 2. You've got 2. So it's only 1.
Oh. There you go.
But there we go. So there you go, guys. Make sure you go and check out the quiz. It is amazing. Tag Denise on Instagram and let her know what your money archetype is, because it genuinely is so interesting and really useful. And obviously make sure you grab a copy of the book on pre-order on Amazon so that we can all read it in February on Sun Loungers. We'll all just come over to Australia, by the way, because that'll be the only place that's warm. And we'll read it with you.
You have to read it in a hammock. You have to read it in a hammock, or you're not allowed to read it at all.
Yeah.
And Jessica, is your third one Maverick?
Damn it, you're good.
I know. You know what? Maverick is why I usually need to see a picture of people is because Mavericks often have coloured hair,
Ah,
brightly coloured hair. Mm-hmm.
that's so cool. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You are basically psychic. That's made my day. Thank you so much. It's been an
Thanks,
absolute epic
Jessica.
episode. And you guys do make sure you go and check out Denise, her website, her book. She is absolutely fantabulous. You know, I've seen her in person. Haven't hugged her yet, but it's coming. And if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit the download button so that you don't miss out on any of the other awesome interviews that we're doing this week. I'll see you soon. If you've been enjoying the Six Figure Success series, then I hope that you will take this opportunity to grab your totally free actionable workbook where you can record your key takeaways, your key action points, and hear my key learns from this series as well. It's jam-packed full of all of the interviewees who've participated and taken part in the series, as well as a few bonus key extras from me. You can go and download it right now using the link in the show notes. I'll see you inside the workbook.